بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين جل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue study of practical method of self-purification by the late Ayatollah Shuja'i Rahmatullah alayh. We continue discussion about fikr, contemplation, thinking about khud, about ourselves. And then inshallah we move on to the next one after fikr, the next instruction, which is dhikr. In the remaining part about fikr, there are some philosophical discussions about our understanding that maybe we can leave it for your future study. I move on to the last part of the discussion about fikr, darbare khud, about thinking about ourselves, which is about a kind of mixed feeling. On the one hand, we feel very lonely. We feel we are separated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are suffering hijab, we are mahjub, we are blocked and veiled. But on the other hand, when we make progress in our self-knowledge, we will realize that we are also very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's not very far from us. So it's a kind of mixed feelings. He mentions a beautiful poem by Maulavi Rumi, which says Allah is very close to us. Quran says, "Nahnu aqrabu ilayhi min habl al-warid." We are closer to man, to human beings, than their jugular vein. But the problem is that sometimes we want to find Allah with our power in very remote places. Imagine a person is looking for treasure, ganj. In Farsi we say ganj, in Arabic we say kanz, treasure, hidden treasure. So he knows that in this, for example, plain or desert, there is a hidden treasure. He has an arrow and he wants to shoot the arrow because he's strong, has strong muscles, and is very capable. So tries to shoot this arrow as far as possible. But the reality is that the treasure is just next to him. Just where he is standing, in front of him, there is treasure. Maybe inside the soil, but it's not far. So the more this person uses his personal power to shoot the arrow to farther distance, the more he goes away from treasure. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very near, but we cannot accept, we cannot believe. So we look everywhere to find him, but we are missing him because he's with us. Maulavi says, آنچه حق است اقرب از حبل الورید تو فکندی تیر فکرت را بعید. Allah is closer to us than jugular vein, but you are shooting the arrow of thought very far. With your thoughts, you are looking for far distances to find Allah. ای کمان و تیرها برساخته، صید نزدیک و تو دور انداخته. All the one who is using this, bow and arrows and, trying to find the treasure or to, hunt the prey. What you want is near, but you are shooting far distances. هر که او دور است دور از روی او، کار ناید قوت بازوی او. Whoever is far from Allah, far from face of Allah, the power of his arms would not help him. This is not something that you need power of muscle and, shooting arrow, for example, for far distance. هر که دوراندازتر او دورتر، و از چنین گنج است او مهجورتر. Whoever can shoot the arrow to more remote places, he would be more away from the treasure. So Allah is very close to us. So on the one hand, we feel we are alone, we are veiled, mahjub. On the other hand, he is very close, to the extent that Allah says, وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِهِ. Allah stands between the person and his heart. So he's closer to the heart than the person. If you remember in Risalatul Wilaya, we talked about different levels of nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then if he is so near, why we are far? Because we ourselves are hijab. We ourselves are the veil. We are ourselves covering and hiding, unfortunately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إنك لا تحتجب عن خلقك إلا أن تحجبهم الأعمال دونه. Allah doesn't hide himself from us, but our actions, our bad thoughts make us deprived from understanding his nearness. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam says, فَسُبْحَانَكَ مَلَأْتَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ وَبَايَنْتَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ فَأَنْتَ لَا يَفْقُدُكَ شَيْءٍ. May you be glorified. You have filled everything. And you are different from everything. He is with everything, but at the same time, he is not the same as them. He's not mixed with them. He's not contained by them. فَأَنْتَ لَا يَفْقُدُكَ شَيْءٍ. Nothing is lacking you. Nothing is without you. Just they need to realize. So our actions, our intentions, our bad traits of character, our attachments, ta'alluqha, and different kinds of darkness in the heart, these are the problems. Then he refers to a hadith from Amir al-Mu'minin salam in Ghurar al-Hikam. It says, Al-Arifu man arafa nafsah فَأَعْتَقَهَا وَنَزَّهَهَا عَنْ كُلِّ مَا يُبْعِدُهَا. Who is Arif? A true Arif, a true mystic, is the one who knows his nafs for himself, and therefore أَعْتَقَهَا, frees and releases his nafs from anything which is bad, anything which is stopping, anything which is stalking, anything which is like a rope which is fastened around you and doesn't let you move. أعتقها. You should free yourself. Quran says about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, يَضَعُ عَنْهُمْ إِسْرَهُمْ وَالْأَغْلَالَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ. One of the tasks of the Prophet was to free people. Those chains that had chained them up, Rasulullah is opening. So Arif should do this with himself. If Nabi does this with everyone, Arif at least start with himself. وَنَزَّهَهَا عَنْ كُلِّ مَا يُبْعِدُهَا, and would purify himself from anything that makes his nafs away. So we need to remove all the obstacles. And then he says we should be also very hopeful. There is no room for yas, for despair, or having, na'udhu billah, bad opinion about Allah. Say, no, I'm not going to reach, He is not going to help me, He's not going to accept me. No, Allah is also very kind, very supportive. As you know, this famous ayah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداع إذا دعان. He says, in the tone of this ayah, in the combination of words, you can think and reflect, and you see there are lots of hints how much Allah is showing Himself near us, available to us. How many times He says, me, my, إِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي. When my servants ask you about me, my servants ask you about me, فَإِنِّي, truly I am, قَرِيب, I am near. أُجِيبُ, I answer, دعوة الداع, the call of whoever calls, إِذَا دَعَانِ, when they call me. So he keeps saying that he is present. And also, ulama say, Allah could have said, if they ask you about me, tell them I am near. But he doesn't say tell them. He answers himself. Means he says, I am here present, I can answer myself. If they ask you, because they think, they should ask you about me, as you are my representative or messenger. But فَإِنِّي غَرِيبٌ, I am near. I answer myself. I am very near. Or in another ayah, فَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ إِنَّ رَبِّي قَرِيبٌ مُجِيبٌ. Surah Hud, verse 61. The previous one, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي, is Surah Baqarah 186. This فَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ إِنَّ رَبِّي قَرِيبٌ مُجِيبٌ is Surah Hud, verse 61. Ask your Lord for forgiveness and return to Him. Truly my Lord is near, Qareeb. He understands you, He hears you, and He replies, Mujib. So there are lots of bishara, lots of hope here. After completing the discussion about fikr, or thinking and contemplation, we start number 7. Remember, we had 10 instructions for the first level. Now we have the second series of instructions for the second level, and we reach number 7, which is zikr. And again, observing the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We had this muraqabah janib al-ma'bud all the time, because this is all about muraqabah. What do we mean by dhikr? What we mean by dhikr here is different from wird. Wird means those invocation that you keep repeating, either by your tongue, and if someone is close to you may hear, or inside, but you are repeating certain words like names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, certain invocations. This is inshallah discussed later. At the moment, we are not concerned about wird or dhikr khafi. What we are talking about is dhikr baatini, to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time, as much as possible. To remember Him all the time in your heart. You may say something or you may not say something. You may utter some names or not, but in your heart He is always remembered. You don't have ghafla of Him or forgetfulness of Him. This is what we want to discuss. Is number 7. منظور در اینجا به طوری که اشاره کردیم اجتناب از غفلت و توجه باطنی به حضرت معبود در همه احوال و یاد جناب او در همه اوقات است. What we mean here is to avoid غفلت, heedlessness, and have deep attention from inner self, from your heart, from bottom of your soul. You have attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all circumstances, in all times. And this is an implication and a requirement of honest search for God. You remember how much we talked about talab in the early sessions. Talab, search. If you really are searching Allah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you are really in pain for separation, so you keep thinking about Him. A lover cannot forget the beloved, especially when the beloved is always present. Allah is always present. If someone is absent, you may forget, but of course a lover cannot forget even if the beloved is absent. But when someone is present, how can we forget? He says, this توجه باطنی, this internal and this deep attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all circumstances is something that we can understand from the Quran as well. For example, in Surah Al-A'raf, verse 205, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً وَدُونَ الْجَهْلِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. Remember your Lord in your nafs, in yourself, not by tongue, not even by mind. Your inner self, you must remember your Lord. تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً, out of eagerness or out of awe, and not with loud voice. دون الجهر من القول. You can utter words for zikr, but not shouting. بالغدو والآصال, in mornings and in, for example, afternoon or evenings. Or afternoon. ولا تكن من الغافلين, don't be one of those who are heedless. So this ayah, although talks also about remembrance by tongue, qawl, but also talks about remembrance by nafs, inside. Zikr nafsi. Then he says, a wayfarer or salik should observe two things. On the one hand, when he remembers Allah's names and attributes of beauty, Asma'ul Jamal, attributes of beauty, then would be very eager, would be very hopeful, very delighted, and wants to go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and would be very hopeful that he can reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah has permitted him to call him and to move towards him. But when he remembers Asma'ul Jalal, names and attributes of glory, which indicates greatness of Allah and the fact that he is very high, very transcendent, then some awe, some khashya, some positive fear, not negative fear, but some fear in the sense of khashya would be developed in his or her heart. So salik will be between two things, joy and happiness and eagerness, and also at the same time being very embarrassed and very, feeling very little, very low in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a kind of balance between fear and hope. And in each condition, you may use different words. For example, he says, if you read du'as and munajat of Ahlul Bayt, you find sometimes the side of joy and happiness and eagerness, raqabah, is mentioned and highlighted, and sometimes rahba and fear and awe. For example, in munajat 15, 15 whispered prayers of Imam Zain al-Abidin, munajatul raghibin is different from munajatul khaifin. Khaifin are fearful because they are paying attention to the Asma'ul Jalal, names of glory. But munajatul raghibin, those who are eager to meet Allah, more emphasis is on raghbah, on eagerness. He says, در مجموع باید گفت, overall, in conclusion, it should be said, نه تنها در مقام ذکر, not only with respect to remembrance, بلکه به طور کلی, but also in general way, در مقام عبودیت, about servitude to Allah, so we should say that لازم است بین رغبت و رهبت بود. We need to be between two sides of aspect. One is raghba, eagerness and joy, and one is rahba and fear and khashya. Quran says, وَدْعُوهُ خَوْفًا وَطَمَعًا إِنَّ رَحْمَةَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Surah A'raf, verse 56. Call him خَوْفًا وَطَمَعًا. Khawfan means out of fear. When you pay attention to the names and attributes of glory. Tama'an, when you are excited to ask and you have expectations to be given. This is raghbah. Sometimes, for some people, temporarily, they are in a condition that you have, you see them the more joy, more raghbah. They are, the situation of bast. Some people are in the situation of qabd, more, fear. But in general, it should be balanced. The best thing is that to have this in a balanced way. But temporarily, sometimes one side becomes more powerful. And he says there are many things to be said, but he says this is not the right time and situation to go into more details. Then he says again, جمال محبوب و حسن او سالک را مجذوب و دل را به سوی خود می کشد. Beauty of our beloved Allah attracts the wayfarer and the heart towards himself. but جلال و مهابت جناب او سالک را کنار می‌زند. But his glory and his awe would push the Salik away. Salik feels that, I'm too little. I cannot, go that high. Allah is so high, is not accessible, as if when he looks at his own lower position. Hafiz has a deep couplet. He says, اگر نه باده غم اگر نه باده غم دل ز یاد ما ببرد اگر نه باده is the call for wine, mystical wine. So this cup, or we can say like a cup, this cup of wine of love, غم دل ز یاد ما ببرد, would make us forget the grief and sadness of the heart. This is رغبت, this is joy. But then he says, نهیب حادثه بنیاد ما ز جا برد. But the cry, the call of, strong call of حادثه, what is happening, is going to destroy us, like, demolishing a building. So that wine of love removes the grief, but the power of Jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us like a demolished house. Like فَلَمَّا تَجَلَّى رَبُّهُ لِلْجَبَلِ جَعَلَهُ دَكًّا وَخَرَّ مُوسَى صَعِقًا. Maybe that was manifestation of Jalal of Allah, not Jamal. Jalal. Even mountain was not able to cope with that. And Musa fell down. جذب او, attractions, jazabat, attractions from Allah would draw the attention of the wayfarer towards maghfirah, rahmah, fadl, ihsan, forgiveness, mercy, favor of Allah, kindness of Allah, and take him towards, Allah. But when there's no jazba, then you feel you are pushed away because Allah is too high. Hafiz says, دوش سودای رخش گفتم ز سر بیرون کنم. Last night is very important. We have talked about this many times. So last night, in his ibadah, tahajjud, tafakkur, he says, last night I said, let me remove the desire for seeing his face. Ruh means the face. So I said, let me forget. I'm not going to reach. Let me forget his beautiful and his great face, my beloved. So this is when there is no jazba. So it's worried and saying, I'm not going to achieve it. So I said, let me remove even the thought and idea from my mind. گفت کو زنجیر تا تدبیر این مجنون کنم. He said, where is the chain so that I take care of this mad person? So the beloved, sometimes with a rope, with a chain, attracts and keeps the lover. so that the lover doesn't go away. But sometimes shows no interest, there's no jazba, and you feel you are rejected. آنگاه که مهابت و جلال او بر وجود سالک غلبه می کند، رغبت و طمع خیش را در بعضی از احوال نیز بی‌مورد می بیند. When the greatness, the grandeur, glory of Allah become dominant over Salik, he feels that there is no point in my eagerness. It's impossible for me. He thinks that I should leave this. باید فکر راه یافتن به جوار قدس او را برای همیشه کنار. I should forget forever reaching his home, his nearness. But when he's going to lose hope, then there are some flashes of light and some attractions come. Allah says, وَلَا تَيْأَسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Surah Yusuf, verse 87. Don't be despaired from Rawh. Rawh is different from Ruh. Ruh means a spirit. Rawh means like joy. From joy and mercy. If you remember, we discussed this in one of the lectures that Rih is wind. Wind is in the physical sky. Rawh is like wind in the spiritual sky. So we should not be despaired. And this ayah is very meaningful in a special way for Salik. Although this can be for every person. But for Salik, who is struggling and, is thinking, maybe I am not good, maybe I am not accepted, maybe I am not, capable of reaching Allah, this ayah is especially relevant to them, that they should not feel despaired. Only those who are kafir will be despaired. So Allah, with his attractions, come and rescues this person. Hafiz says, گرچه وصالش نه به کوشش دهند، هر قدر ای دل بتوانی بکوش. Although Vesal means meeting, reaching. Although meeting Allah and reaching Allah is not granted based on kushesh, your efforts. This honor of meeting Allah is not given by efforts, in the sense that you need a special favor. Yeah, it's not, you say, okay, how many hours, I should make efforts, then I will get it. How many days, how many years? No. It's a gift. It's not given based on efforts, but هر قدر ای دل بتوانی بکوش. Oh heart, as much as you can make efforts. This is amazing. If someone just reads the first part, would say, okay, I don't need to make efforts. No, he says, you must make efforts as much as you can, but know that it's not because of your efforts that you will meet him if you meet him. He should make himself available. But your efforts are also part of it. But it's not guaranteeing. So Salek should be always, in all circumstances, remembering Allah baatinan. Deep in his heart should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if he's busy with other things. If he's working, studying, I don't know, washing, cooking, traveling, driving. always should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything in the background of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and should avoid ghafla. Shaitan and nafs. على الاتصال. He says شیطان و نفس على الاتصال میخواهند وی را به غفلت بکشانند. Satan and nafs amare continuously try to make us heedless. They know how valuable it is to remember Allah. They want to make us busy with different things, engage us, so that we are not remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because maybe for some time ghafla is rooted, so at the beginning might be difficult. Even if you start with remembering, you may forget. But you should be alert. As soon as you realize that you have forgotten or you have been heedless, go back. Don't stop. Go back. Do isti'adha and istighfar. Ask Allah for refuge. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Or قل أعوذ برب الناس. قل أعوذ برب الفلق. These chapters of Falaq and Nas. Do isti'adha, do istighfar. These help you to compensate that heedlessness and also to strengthen your position for next step. So don't lose your hope. Don't, give up. Continue. استعاذه و استغفار در قلب کافی است و اگر محظوری نباشد به زبان هم بیاورد بهتر خواهد. He says it's enough to do استعاذه and استغفار in your heart, but if there is no problem, also utter the words of استغفار and استعاذه. And then he says verses 200 and 201 of Surah A'raf refers to this fact about استعاذة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإما ينزغنك من الشيطان نزغ فاستعذ بالله إنه سميع عليم. If shaitan brings some temptation and attacks you, ask Allah for refuge. استعذ. استعاذة is باب استفعال. فاستعذ بالله إنه سميع عليم. In another ayah we have very similar to this, but at the end says إنه السميع العليم. I think I have it inshallah here. Yes, in Surah A'raf verse 200 says at the end إنه سميع عليم. Exactly the same is repeated in Surah Fussilat 36. Just at the end it says إنه هو السميع العليم with alif lam. Surah A'raf إنه سميع عليم. Surah Fussilat إنه هو السميع العليم. There is هو and السميع العليم. So when shaitan comes, فاستعذ بالله. Isti'adha is very powerful tool. Alhamdulillah, I had tawfiq to talk about isti'adha in Sweden in Farsi, 3 lectures on isti'adha. I am looking for an opportunity to talk about isti'adha in English, inshallah, soon. Please pray for tawfiq, so that we will see that isti'adha is very powerful tool. It's not just formality or just a way to say that mu'minin, should be careful. When you do isti'adha, there is extra support for you. It's like applying for extra support. إن الذين اتقوا إذا مسهم طائف من الشيطان تذكروا فإذا هم مبصرون. Those who have taqwa protects. Taqwa is by itself a kind of power, a strength. when you do your wajibat, you avoid haram, this gives you power for future, gives you light for future, makes future easier and less challenged. When these muttaqin are touched by a group of shaitan who are doing tawaf, they are roaming, they are going around to see who is ghafil, who is heedless, so that they attack. When these people massahum, they just touch, muttaqin tazakkaru. They realize that this is a satanic touch. They wake up, tazakkaru. They remember, فَإِذَا مُبْصِرُونَ, then they can see that this was from shaitan. Those who are not muttaqi, maybe they enjoy it, say it was very nice touch, nice, perfume, nice, voice, nice, appearance, nice look, they enjoy. But muttaqi realizes, no, this is taste of haram, this is very bitter, this is very, ugly, this smells terrible. تذكروا فإذا هم مبصرون. He says, please reflect a lot on these verses of Surah A'raf. He says, there are lots of points here. So, heedlessness is because of temptation of shaitan, or at least we can say shaitan tries to use, either in the first place he caused ghafla, which is possible. Shaitan makes us forget. وَمَا أَنْسَانِيهُ إِلَّا الشَّيْطَانَ أَنْ أَذْكُرَهُ. Shaitan sometimes doesn't let us remember. For the people, of course, who listen to shaitan, cooperate, or leave hands of shaitan open, or at least tries to use our ghafla. One of the two. By these people, shaitan allies, or shaitan, army who go around to touch. But if you manage to have remembrance of Allah in batin, even if it is not 100%, but most of the time, it protects. There is a hadith Qudsi, a divine saying, in Uddatul Da'i by the late Ibn Fahd Hilli, and Ayatollah Shujai quotes from Biharul Anwar. So Allama Majlisi in Biharul Anwar cited this from Uddatul Da'i. According to this hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Hadith Qudsi, Hadith Qudsi, divine saying, أيما عبد اطلعت على قلبه فرأيت الغالب علي التمسك بذكري. Any servant that I look at his heart and find that al-ghalibu alay, what is dominant over his heart, is my remembrance. Either in the sense that, meaning that most of the time he is remembering me, or means this is the dominant situation, remembrance of me. At-tamassuku bi-dhikr, he grasps and appeals to my dhikr. Tavallaytu siyasatahu, I will undertake his siyasa. Siyasa means tadbir. I will undertake his planning. وَكُنْتُ جَلِيسَهُ وَمُحَادِثَهُ وَأَنِيسَهُ. I become his jalis and muhadis and anis. Jalis means someone who is sitting with you. In Farsi we say hamnashin, jalis, someone who is sitting with you. Muhadith means ham sohbat, hamdam, someone who talks with you. Anis, someone who gives you uns, acquaintance. You don't feel lonely. So I look at the heart of servants, and if I find that what is dominant or what is more common is appealing to my dhikr, I will undertake the planning for him, and I will talk to him, I will be close to him, sitting with him. It's amazing. Then he talks about blessings and fruits or outcomes, barakat, means those fruits which are kind of blessings of dhikr nafsi. And he starts with a beautiful ayah, أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. Inshallah, we discuss this in the next session. We humbly ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to remember him all the time, in all circumstances, and have no room for shaitan to approach us and to distract us. Bi'idhnillah, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.
Thank you, Sheikh. There's a question.
Yes.
You will take it.
In the chat?
No, she'll send it to me.
Okay.
So I'll read it. So does the archer need to do lateral thinking, like Moses alayhi salam looking to the side to catch sight of the burning bush?
Sorry, could you repeat?
So when you talked about the throwing of the arrows, isn't it? So it's related to that. So she's saying, does the archer need to do lateral thinking like Musa alayhi salam, looking to the to catch the sight of the burning bush?
Yes. So you should look around 360 degrees. It may not be in front of you or the right side or left side. Any, direction is possible to find Wajhullah. So don't look for Allah where you are used to it or you expect. Maybe where you don't expect, He is there. Yeah. For example, I want to do something which very much like and enjoy, for example, some ibadah, some study, I don't know, some ziyarah, etc. Then someone becomes ill and needs my attention. Or I have family problem, we just had, 1 hour, difficult, discussion. But I try to remain patient and calm, and act as a servant of Allah. But I may feel very bad, this 1 hour, I could do lots of good things, I could study, I could do dhikr, etc. I could, visit my, friends, etc. But who knows? And maybe now Allah was nearer to you than where you wanted to go yourself and you had desire to go. Here you didn't have any desire and you had to remain patient. So maybe here Allah is more present. Okay, so we should not restrict Allah to our habits or our preferences. He can be with you in all circumstances, especially where you don't like, you don't enjoy yourself, there is no preference for you, no convenience, no preference. You want to do something else, but maybe the thing that you don't like but you have to do are more important. So this doesn't mean that we shouldn't have plan for example, do things that we think they are good, like a study, I don't know, community work, charity work, visiting friends. No, you should plan for that. You should try to do that. But if something else comes on your way, look at it as an opportunity. Look at it as the fire which came when Musa didn't expect. He was going for something else.
Thank you, Sheikh.
Allah
Can I ask one question as well?
Please.
Although you've partially answered it in this one, but as the months build up from Rajab to Shaban to Ramadan, my Mubarak, I mean, you have kind of this anticipation which goes to the peak on Shab-e Qadrs. And then once that is over and done with, and you don't have any sort of direct encounter, you tend to start despairing somehow and losing that focus and that attention. So how to keep that intact and how to proceed subsequently from this point? Because year after year we expect that something spectacular might happen, but it's only the little things that happen, and maybe just the breezes are there, but not something substantial you can hold on to.
Yeah, again, here it's khawf and raja. So, someone asked me about Laylatul Qadr, how was my experience? I said, you never know, because you may think you have achieved something. This is dangerous. You think you didn't achieve anything. This is also dangerous, because you have hope. So you say, maybe we have been given some gifts by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we didn't deserve, and we are hopeful. Hope is very important. Always we should be hopeful and grateful and humble. In these remaining days and nights of the month of Ramadan, we should keep doing this dua. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلة هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه. Should keep asking Allah that in the remaining days to forgive us, and be hopeful. I am sure that every mu'min who has honestly asked Allah has been given great things by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm sure Allah is not disappointing. If we are good servants, He is certainly very generous and very good, Lord, Master. But sometimes it's better for us if we don't know and just remain in this, question mark on the, so that we remain humble, we remain active. We don't say, okay, I've achieved everything, I don't need to work more.
Thank you, Sheikh.
Yeah,
I don't see any more questions in the chat. If anyone feels like asking, they can ask Sheikh. Or if you want to end with a dua, Sheikh.
Inshallah, thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا. اللهم اغفر إسرافنا في أمرنا. اللهم اشف مرضانا. اللهم اشف مرضانا. اللهم اشف مرضانا. اللهم ارحم موتانا. اللهم اقض حوائجنا. اللهم أد عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر. اللهم أعطنا بصيرة في الدين وفهما في كتابك. We request Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive all mu'mineen and mu'minat, including us, in the remaining days and nights of the month of Ramadan, and make us, inshallah, happy and successful for the day of Eid al-Fitr, when the obedient servants of Allah receive their gifts. We ask Allah to include us also in the list of the obedient ones, inshallah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Iltimas dua. May Allah bless you, inshallah.